Hello, Rob from Fountain Pen Journey with my 5 years of doing Fountain Pen Journey. So this is a channel update. I will show a few pens in this video, but it is going to be mainly me talking to you. So you get to see my happy smiling face. So 5 years ago, in fact this Christmas, was when I began my, not just the Fountain Pen Journey channel, but also my Fountain Pen Journey itself, where I started off buying really cheap Chinese fountain pens, Jinhao mainly, and really enjoying using them and collecting them. And since then, 5 years on, wow, there's quite a lot happened. So I just want to talk to you today about what I've discovered in that 5-year period, and also in the last 12 months since my 4 years of doing Fountain Pen Journey video. So thank you to all of my subscribers who've stuck with me, and many of you have been here since the very early days, so I really do appreciate you sticking with this and leaving the comments and liking and doing all the lovely things which help boost my channel's growth. It's nice to hear your comments and have a discussion in the comments down below. So thank you to all of you who've been here for the journey. And it still continues, and I'm still not entirely sure where my fountain pen journey is leading me to. A few months ago, I did a fountain pen financials video, and that was before things started to get, if you like, really tight economically for a lot of people across the world. And it made me do an awful lot of thinking, and there were some really good comments as well in that video, which also made me think. People were finding it was quite a thought-provoking video, and I think it made me think as well, reconsider my fountain pen purchases and how I continue with Fountain Pen Journey, because fountain pens, I'm going to be quite honest, I think that the cheap Chinese fountain pens from Jinhao and that, which is still available, you know, you can still pick up a Jinhao X450 for only a few pounds. They seemed to be cheaper a number of years ago, but certainly now, I mean, you can pick up a Jinhao 80, for example, for about £3 or £4, including shipping, which is pretty good value. I'm very happy with those pens. But the Chinese market, or the Chinese manufacturers, in my honest opinion now, are, brace yourselves, taking the piss. They really are. I would not say that the quality is now worth it, because for the price, I mean, when you pick up a Jinhao X750, X450, whatever they are, you're getting a really cheap metal fountain pen with a nib that is pretty good. It's pretty consistent. I've bought dozens and dozens of them over the years, and only ever had to really adjust one or two. And since the early 2022 debacle with Kaweco, basically putting the kibosh on the Chinese manufacturers, especially Delike and Moonman, and basically buying those names and trademarking them under the Kaweco brand so that other people can't actually trade, Chinese manufacturers have not really made that many pens in the last couple of years, mainly since the pandemic. 2020, the pandemic hit, and since then, and now especially late 2022, supply chain issues are shocking. I work in manufacturing, and we are really struggling. There are simple things like O-rings, small components, small metal components, washers, things like that. And suppliers are basically giving us 6-month lead times. And of course, you can't place an order for 5,000. You need to buy 500,000 now. The price of a lot of things is going up. I know that in late 2021, Pelican were really struggling in providing nibs for their fountain pens, and broad nibs in Pelican fountain pens for a while became basically unobtainable, and certainly not in the USA. became very, very difficult. And it's all because these small pieces of metal, just the metal's gone up in price. It's not as easily available. Factories are still going into shutdowns, lockdowns, if you like. And it's having a really, really big knock-on effect. And the Chinese have not been as prolific in their pen designs, pen manufacturing, as they have been in previous years up to 2020. So the cost of things has gone up. The quality of things remains very much the same. Now, the Chinese fountain pens, a few years ago when I started Fountain Pen Journey, I could literally just spend 30 minutes on eBay. Go on eBay, Chinese sellers, you could buy all sorts of Jinhao fountain pens, all sorts of other Chinese fountain pens for maybe £3 or £4 maximum, including shipping from China. And they may take 3 weeks or so to arrive here in the UK, but there was a lot of choice. Now there isn't, because what's happened is the brands which you used to see, certainly on eBay, Delike, Moonman, have all been basically stopped from trading, so they've had to be rebranded. So those fountain pens are often being sold as things like Mahjong, which is the, if you like this now, the Chinese generic coverall name for all of their Chinese fountain pens which are made there. And it's created an awful lot of confusion. Some designs, like the Delike Classic Alpha, which in all honesty is a fantastic value fountain pen, much, much, much cheaper than the Kaweco All Sport, but very, very similar. In fact, there's not really a lot in it, except obviously it's not a Kaweco branded fountain pen, and the nib is a generic iridium point nib. So things like that have disappeared, basically. You can still hunt around for them if you type in things like brass pen, brass pocket fountain pen. But even eBay has changed, because eBay now charges a premium for Chinese sellers to ship to the UK. The UK has imposed ridiculous import duties, which thankfully have only hit me once. And it was eye-watering. I mean, I bought something like 3 Chinese fountain pens, and suddenly I have to pay an extra, I think it was about 14 or 21 pounds, something like that, just to actually get hold of the package from Royal Mail because of the import fees. So the UK has kind of shot themselves in the foot with things like that. The import of goods, any goods, is suddenly more difficult. And that applies to anything, whether it's fountain pens, fruit and veg, whatever it is. It's a problem. So the Chinese fountain pens, I'm just sort of diverting off a bit, but the Chinese fountain pens that have been produced in the last 1 to 2 years, I've bought a few, Asvine, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, good quality, but really not, in my mind, worth the actual price. I bought one of the Asvine fountain pens. I can't remember, it was a V160 or something. It was the one that looks a bit like the Laban skeleton with a vac filler over a, and it had an overlay, metal webbed overlay, excuse me, which was a very attractive pen. I still haven't used it because I watched the reviews, decided to buy one, and my experience of Chinese fountain pens is not as good as it used to be. I'm finding that if I pay £30, £40 for a Chinese fountain pen, I basically get a very generic, might be a branded nib, but it's not a very exciting nib to write with. It's a lot of money. When I can buy something from TWSBI, which I know is going to be a lot more consistent, have a lot better writing experience, from a known brand, it does exactly what I expect it to do, I'm not willing to pay the extra maybe £5, £10, £20 for a Chinese fountain pen, which I don't know very much about, because my concentration has always been on the cheap pens. I collect cheap fountain pens. This is what my Fountain Pen Journey channel has always been about and always will be about. But over the last year or two, I've actually found that I'm having to, 1, spend more on a Chinese fountain pen, and 2, if I decide that I'm not spending my pen budget on cheap Chinese fountain pens, which are no longer cheap, I'm not going to spend that money. And before I know it, I've actually got enough to buy a better quality fountain pen. Now, one thing that I might do is perhaps browse on eBay and buy second-hand fountain pens occasionally. I do that with Pelikan fountain pens. And I find it a bit more rewarding because sometimes, rather than just seeing something that comes out, I'm not just going straight to AliExpress or one of the other retail sites and buying that pen immediately. I might wait for the reviews, or I may not buy it at all. I mean, there was a brass pocket fountain pen, I think it was called, available on AliExpress. It came up for sale in 2022, and I really liked the look of it, and I was very tempted by it. Had some doubts about the actual size of the diameter of the section, so it sat in my basket for a few months, and then Chris Rapp did his review of the very same pen, and it was a shocking writer, and I'm very grateful to actually see other people's reviews. And if you're an early adopter and you happen to buy pens as soon as they become available, yeah, thank you very much. I enjoy watching those reviews to see whether it's worth me buying them. And of course, with my reviews, when I review them, I also tend to sort of do a bit of research, work out whether it's worth the outlay, the actual cost. And then when I review the pens, I review them after a number of weeks of use, usually, just to basically make sure that there aren't any weird issues, any issues with the thing drying out when it's capped, things like that. So that's what I do, and that's what I shall continue to do. So 2022, this has been a very strange year. I've struggled with quite a few things. I changed jobs, excuse me, all sorts of stuff going on at home. And quite honestly, as I said in my, I think it was my 4 years on, Fountain Pen Journey 4 years on video, we moved house a year ago, more than a year ago now, and going from a situation where I didn't have a lot of outlay, I had more time. We were basically living in a flat which was really nice, really big flat, but you know, I had more opportunity to actually not just use my fountain pens, but actually do more videos, record more videos. And if anyone ever thinks that, you know, I'm recording a 10-minute video, how long are we now? 13-minute video. If I just sit here and record a 13-minute video and that's it, that's not the case. If you want to be a YouTuber, you've got to put the hours in, and it becomes almost a part-time job. If you want it to be really successful, you've got to do a full-time job. So when I started Fountain Pen Journey, just simply recording, editing, uploading a video, a 30-minute video, say, would be at least a morning, if not a full day. And when you've got a day job, that's actually really, really time consuming. The knock-on effect is that you don't spend the time using the pens, you don't spend the time with your family, you don't spend time doing the things which are not fountain pen related, and you just end up recording and editing YouTube videos, which is why I went down the very basic YouTube route. I don't edit my videos. I record them, I make my notes, record them, but I don't put fancy editing in because it is just stupidly time consuming. When you look at other YouTubers, really successful YouTubers who talk about how to grow your YouTube channel, they will do a 5-minute video and it will take them 2 days to edit and put all the bits in and everything else. And quite honestly, I don't have that time. And if you do, then yeah, fair play to you. But at the end of the day, my time is valuable. You only get so much of it. And at the end, you know, I'm going to be honest, I don't want to spend my entire life just recording and editing videos. So this is where I'm honest. And And, you know, if I get a fountain pen that I don't like, I'm going to be honest about that. I always am. Even if it was something where a seller, I've had that once, a seller approached me about a fountain pen and said, you can have this pen, buy it, we will reimburse you if you review it and give us a link to the video. And I used that fountain pen, and I can't even remember whether he even uploaded the video. But basically, I said, I'm not happy with it. I don't think it's a good pen. You asked for an honest opinion, and sorry, but it's not good. It dries out. It doesn't write particularly well. It's not something that I'm going to really recommend to people. Funnily enough, I never got another one of those. So collaborations. I had another collaboration earlier this year from a Chinese seller wanting to sell me a pen rest. It was a snake pen rest, which basically they emailed me and I said, yeah, I'm happy to review it. Can't really see what you can review. It's a pen rest made out of brass in the shape of a snake. If it holds the pen well, then yeah, that's it. It serves its purpose. But end of the day, I said, yeah, I'm happy to review that, send it over to me. Heard nothing, and quite honestly, I don't think I could really have added a great deal to it. I've seen very similar pen rests, brass pen rests from China, being reviewed on other channels, and you know, it's a pen rest in the shape of an animal. You can rest your pen on all sorts of things. I mean, you know, pens come with clips and roll stops. Do you need a pen rest? If you need a pen rest, yeah, you can buy one. And I did look at the first pen rest review that I saw, and I thought, I quite like that. Let's have a look how much it is. And it was something like £98, including the shipping and the taxis to the UK. And it's like, for a tiny bit of brass, no. Then about 2 weeks later, go on AliExpress and you see every other Chinese metal fabricator is now selling those pen rests. They basically copied the design, remolded it, recast it, selling it for £7 instead of £98. So yeah, I'm not into that. I think the Chinese are beginning to let themselves down quite a lot. I've kind of gone off China quite a lot as well. I mean, since the pandemic and the way that I've learned how they treat dogs, I don't want to be political or anything, but yeah, quite honestly, I struggle with any nation which treats animals that badly. So I don't really want to support any any country that does that. You know, change your way of doing things. Excuse me, change your way of treating animals, and I may be more inclined to value you and your products and buy from you. Anyway, that's that little rant over. So China has not really been a big manufacturer in my fountain pen journey for the last few years, really. I think 2022 has really highlighted it for me, though. Not interested in the stuff that they're producing at the prices that they are being sold at. Other manufacturers, now I've started to once again rediscover other manufacturers and try more expensive brands, simply because I'm saving that money. I'm not spending it on Chinese tat. I am actually, you know, buying decent fountain pens occasionally, and some of the fountain pens that I am buying, certainly mid-level, mid-range prices. They're not massively expensive, but I'm also seeing, once again, going back to the financial aspect, I'm seeing more and more posts on social media, Facebook being one of the absolute worst places, where people do seem to be using their fountain pens as bragging rights. Almost like, oh, I spent £500 on a fountain pen. Look at my fountain pen. And next month I'm going to spend £700 on a fountain pen. And it's more and more. And we're seeing this financial divide. So it's the haves and the have-nots. So some people are quite happy using their fountain pen. Some people are now consolidating their fountain pen collections. I've got a huge collection. I don't intend on selling pens, but I may do, because I've got an awful lot of pens which I have never used or never will use, but they're part of a collection. So what's the point in them? So maybe I'll offload some of those in the coming years to actually just go, you know what, I want to consolidate it down to a certain number of pens which I actually enjoy using and really, really do appreciate. My recent pen video, where I had something like over 30 fountain pens inked up all at once, is testament to this sort of issue. A lot of those fountain pens I've been writing with all year, and I just keep inking them up, simply because I can't stand using the going through the whole cleaning process. Excuse me, just checking a notification. Yep, that's fine. Oh, the joys of technology. You get notifications on your watch and all sorts of stuff, and you just got to check. So yeah, that's where I'm at. 2022 has been a bit of a funny year. I've started to look at vintage fountain pen purchases a little bit more, because they are, let's face it, a little bit more affordable. You're taking a bigger risk, but at the end of the day, you're getting a pen which probably writes, if it's a good one, it's going to write a lot better than some of the cheap Chinese rubbish that's coming out. I mean, certainly Pen BBS being a great example. Oh, I love slagging Pen BBS off. Yeah, yeah. Now Pen BBS are not churning out many designs. They're not churning out many colours in acrylics, and a lot of their stuff is well, yeah, it's just not happening since the pandemic hit. Their manufacturing and the designing just isn't happening. It's kind of annoying, because I was looking forward to seeing some new designs. I mean, I love the Pen BBS 308. I think it's a fantastic cartridge converter, stroke eyedropper fountain pen, brilliant fountain pen, perfect in almost every sense. Do they make any more? No. Do they make them in any more acrylics? No. What do? They create fancy filling systems, which at the end of the day break. People go on about TWSBI, the TWSBI Eco, all the time. So many people comment on my channel about any TWSBI Eco review that I do, and they go, oh yeah, but the TWSBI Eco breaks. Pen BBS filling systems either don't work or they break. They're not putting in their quality control. And quite honestly, when you see Pen BBS fountain pen listings on Etsy, and they they really annoyingly go, oh, we'll call it a prototype, and people buy it, and it's like, are you mad? You're being sold something that they probably know isn't very good and it's likely to break. So why on earth would you just collect Pen BBS fountain pens? But this is what it's about. This is what the whole fountain pen hobby is about. It's about the passion that we have for certain brands. And one thing that has always come up with me in my pen reviews and things, and certainly when I review the best and worst fountain pens of this particular year, which, you know, people go, well, there's no Lamy in there, there's no Pelikan, what's wrong with you? There must be something wrong with you. No, it's not that I'm saying they're not great pens, I'm just saying that they are not as, they didn't make it into my list for the year. I didn't use them, or I didn't like them enough over the pens that I did pick. If they were in the worst pens, then yeah, okay, that's open to debate. But at the end of the day, you know, we all like certain brands, and Pen BBS is just not a brand that I particularly like. I've got a lot of Pen BBS fountain pens because the designs from 3 or 4 years ago were really, really good, and the acrylics were good, but now you just don't get them. I mean, there was this year, 2022, the year of the Ox, which came out, when was it? About October time? September, October 2022. Should have been out in January. Yeah, and quite possibly one of the most unremarkable, overpriced Chinese fountain pens that I've seen for a very, very long time. yeah, real disappointment. So Pen BBS, I don't know whether they're ever going to get back on track. The way it's going at the moment, I don't have many hopes for them. And at the end of the day, if they continue to produce fountain pens which are in the £55, $55 region, which have filling systems which I don't particularly like, with Pen BBS nibs which I do not like, they're always fine and dry. They write perfectly well, but they're fine and dry. I don't want to bother spending that sort of money when I can get something that I know is going to be much more appealing and much more pleasurable to write with from another manufacturer. Even the European manufacturers are, you know, more interesting and more reliable than that. So, yeah, 2022, interesting year. I don't know where 2023 is going to go, because I do want to carry on doing these videos. I have considered not doing as many pen reviews and doing more of the pens that I'm actually using at that time. But, you know, that goes back to cleaning. Pen cleaning is a massive time-consuming chore, which 2021 I wasn't happy with. 2022 definitely. I maybe have spent 3 Saturday mornings in 2022 cleaning fountain pens, because I just find it such a massive chore. Cleaning one pen at once, yeah, that's okay, but you know, if you're cycling through a great number of pens, then it's time consuming. It's a bit of a nightmare, and that is something that this year certainly I've gone more down the route of refilling the pen with the same ink rather than rotating my pens and using something new. It's just the way I've been this year, and that's mainly because I've had other things on. I mean, we've got 3 dogs, we've got a garden, we've got a house to look after, got, you know, I want to rest from work. I changed jobs. The job that I have is great. I love it, but it can be really draining at times. Whereas before, I didn't really mind in the evenings. I had the time to go and record a pen video, you know, maybe 45 minutes free time in the evening to just do fountain pen journey, which I don't have that time now. You know, I'm getting up earlier, I'm going to bed earlier, I'm concentrating 2023 on getting a lot fitter, a lot more mentally resilient and mentally fitter. I've got a lot of goals and a lot of big challenges ahead of me this year, and I'm really excited about those. And you know, there's other stuff going on in life, and unfortunately sometimes, you know, having this hobby is great. It provides me with this little outlet, creative outlet that I enjoy, but sometimes you've just got to prioritize what's really important to you. And a few years ago when I started Fountain Pen Journey, yeah, I really loved my fountain pens, but I had the time and I was able to provide the commitment that I needed to do that. Whereas 2023, I've got other goals, and I love my fountain pen still, but sooner or later, you know, you've got to go, well, I've got 2 hours, I've got 1 hour to record a video, maybe. Okay, so I'm going to have to really think, what am I going to do? So it's all about time, and time is something that is very valuable. And this is one of those things that, you know, if the Chinese aren't churning out fountain pens, which I really want to buy, I have more time, I have more money to purchase, if you like, better fountain pens from Western manufacturers. That's kind of where I am at the moment. It's not that I dislike my fountain pens. Hell no, I love them. But I've got to be truthful. You know, time is valuable. And I like spending time with my family. I like spending time in the garden. I like spending time with the dogs. And you know, it's one of those things. The videos will still keep coming this year. You're still going to get my videos, but maybe not as frequent No, no, I'm not going to use the word frequent. Not as fluid as they have been in some years. 2022, there was a bit of a hiatus, and the main reason for that, whenever I get a hiatus, is because you get some absolutely crappy comments on YouTube. I mean, you get great comments. Thanks, guys, girls, all of you who put great comments. That's really great. But when you get crappy comments, you just go, you know what? I'm spending my time, my money doing this for free. And this goes back to over the years, so many times. You grow a thick skin if you're online because you're never going to please everybody all of the time. But when you get absolutely crappy comments or comments which you just go, you know what, why do I bother? It gets to the point you're like, oh, what's the point? You know, YouTube is a funny old platform. I find it not as creative as some people. Some people love creating content just for the sake of it. But I find writing with my fountain pens creative. Maybe even sketching with fountain pens is creative. I want to try and get into digital art this year. So there's a lot of plans, and I want that creative outlet. Whereas YouTube is generally a case of you film a video and it gets published and people watch it. So yeah, it's it's one of those things which is time consuming. So I shall let me show some of my pens in this video because it is too much of a talking video. Here we go. Right, so I'll get my pen tray back. Yeah, Narwhal original, now called Narvalur. Yeah, this is the yellow Tang fountain pen. Yeah, uploaded that video, got it all wrong, said that it was TWSBI who were having a spat at Narwhal. It was the other way round. So yeah, completely cocked that video up earlier this year. It's been inked up pretty much all year in use. And the more I've used it, the more I've actually thought it's gone from being a great pen to being a bit mediocre writing. It's good, don't get me wrong, it's good, but it's not fantastic. Late 2022, started reusing my Lamy 2000. This is the medium nib. I've loved these pens, my Lamy 2000s, two of them. When I got them, absolutely loved them because it was a real pinnacle. This was a grail pen for me. And I did a comparison with the Jinhao 80 and the Lamy Studio, and I actually prefer the Lamy Studio and the Jinhao 80 to the Lamy 2000. I think it actually writes better than the Lamy. Both of those pens write better than the Lamy 2000. Interestingly, no, ooh, bash the thing. No, where are we? No leaks around the section this time, so it could have been the ink, but it shouldn't leak anyway. Let's see what else I'm going to talk about in this tray. Let me have a look. Oh, Parker Vector stainless steel. Yeah, very much a well-used pen this year. Not the most inspiring pen. It's very slim. The section's very slim, but it's a good pen, and it's kind of one of those things that just ticks the box. It's an everyday carry and it works. I'm not even going to go into some of these pens. I'll give you a sneak peek. Yeah, coming up in a video soon. Yeah, I've got a lot to say about those. Oh dear, yes, yes. And this pen. Got a lot to say about that, unfortunately. Oh, bash the tripod again. And yeah, that. Yeah, enough said. Yeah. Oh, and this brand. I have a lot to say about this brand as well very soon. Yeah, so it has been interesting. I have diversified a bit. I'm doing different things. with my fountain pens, so I am enjoying using different brands, and it's nice to be able to get away from the Chinese brands that I've got so used to, because I've discovered all sorts of other stuff this year. Different brands, different manufacturers. Yeah, really happy with the way that things are going. But of course, this is not a case of you buy every single pen which comes out, and there's 10 of them this month, as it was a few years ago. Now it's a lot more consolidated. So there we have it. Thank you very much for watching my fountain pen journey 5 years on, and I shall see you next time. Bye.